Captain Daniel Greaves stood on the bridge of the Celestial Vengeance, a military exploration vessel assigned to scout and secure potential resources in uncharted territories. Today, their mission led them to a newly discovered planet with promising mineral deposits. "Prepare the landing party," Daniel ordered, reviewing the scans of the planet's surface. "We need to secure the area and set up a base camp." The team descended to the planet, their boots sinking into the soft, mossy ground. As they explored, they discovered a pristine lake with clear, inviting water. "This looks like a good spot to set up camp," Lieutenant Sarah Hodge suggested, eyeing the surroundings. Unbeknownst to them, a curious alien girl named Tessa watched from the nearby forest. She had been observing these strange visitors with fascination, drawn to their advanced technology and peculiar behavior. Parched from her journey, she decided to approach the lake once the humans had moved on. In the haste to set up camp, one of the scientists accidentally dropped a vial of experimental military serum into the lake. The serum was designed to enhance human soldiers' physical and mental abilities, but was highly volatile and untested on other species. Tessa, unaware of the contamination, approached the lake and drank deeply from its cool, refreshing waters. Almost immediately, she felt a strange sensation coursing through her body, a heat and urgency she had never experienced before. Confused and overwhelmed, Tessa stumbled through the forest, her mind clouded with intense, unfamiliar arousal. She didn't understand what was happening to her, only that she needed help. Back at the camp, Daniel reviewed the initial findings with his team. "This planet has potential," he said. "We'll start mining operations tomorrow." Suddenly, an alarm blared. "Captain, we've detected an unidentified life form approaching the camp," Sarah reported. Daniel and Sarah hurried to the perimeter where they found Tessa, her eyes wide with desperation and confusion. "Help me," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "I don't know what's happening to me." Daniel approached cautiously, sensing her distress. "You're safe now. We'll help you. What's your name?" "Tessa," she whispered, clutching her chest as if trying to contain the overwhelming sensations. Sarah scanned her with a medical device. "Captain, her vitals are off the charts, something seriously affecting her." Daniel's mind raced, trying to piece together what had happened. "Take her to the infirmary. We need to find out what's causing this and help her." In the ship's infirmary, Dr. Emily Park examined Tessa, quickly identifying the source of her condition. "She's ingested the military serum. It's having a potent and unexpected effect on her biology." Daniel frowned. "What can we do to help her?" Dr. Park shook her head. "We need to flush the serum out of her system, but it's going to take time. Until then, she'll need to be monitored closely." Tessa looked at Daniel, her eyes filled with trust. "Please, don't leave me alone. I don't understand these feelings." Daniel took her hand, his heart aching for her. "You're not alone, Tessa. We'll get through this together." In the ship's infirmary, Dr. Emily Park continued her examination of Tessa, running a series of tests to understand the full extent of the serum's effects on her alien physiology. Daniel stood by, watching with a mixture of concern and curiosity. "Her vitals are fluctuating wildly," Dr. Park said, reviewing the data on her tablet. "The serum is amplifying her neurological and physiological responses in ways we didn't anticipate." Daniel frowned, his mind racing. "Is there any immediate danger to her?" Dr. Park shook her head. "Not immediately, but the serum's effects are causing her intense discomfort and could lead to complications if not addressed. We need to find a way to neutralize it." Tessa, lying on the examination table, looked up at Daniel. "It's like my body is on fire," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I've never felt anything like this before." Daniel took her hand, his expression softening. "We'll find a way to help you, Tessa. You're not alone." Dr. Park administered a sedative to help ease Tessa's discomfort. "This should help for now, but it's only a temporary solution." As Tessa's breathing steadied, Daniel turned to Dr. Park. "What's our next step?" "We need to isolate the active compounds in the serum and create an antidote," Dr. Park explained. "It's going to be a complex process, but it's our best shot at stabilizing her condition." Over the next few days, Daniel spent a lot of time with Tessa, helping her manage the intense sensations caused by the serum. He was captivated by her strength and resilience despite the overwhelming challenges she faced. Tessa, in turn, found comfort in Daniel's presence. She admired his unwavering support and kindness, feeling a growing affection for him. They shared stories about their respective worlds and cultures, deepening their bond. One evening, as they sat in the observation deck watching the stars, Tessa turned to Daniel. "I've never felt so connected to anyone before," she said softly. "Even in this state, you make me feel safe." Daniel smiled, his heart warming at her words. "We'll find a way to make this stop, Tessa. Until then, I'm here with you." Their peaceful moment was interrupted by an urgent message from Lieutenant Sarah Hodge. "Captain, we have a situation. An alien warship has entered orbit and is demanding to speak with you." Daniel's expression hardened. "I'll be right there." He turned to Tessa, his eyes filled with determination. "Stay here with Dr. Park, I'll handle this." On the bridge, Daniel faced the view screen displaying the alien warship. The imposing figure of Commander Raoul, the alien leader, appeared, his expression stern and menacing. "This is Commander Raoul of the Zyrithian Empire," he declared. "You are harboring a fugitive named Tessa. Return her to us immediately, or face the consequences." Daniel stood firm. "Tessa is under our protection. She's done nothing wrong, and we won't hand her over to you." Commander Raoul's eyes narrowed. "You have no idea who you're dealing with, human. Prepare to be boarded." The connection was abruptly cut and alarms blared throughout the ship. The Zyrithian warship began its approach, weapons charging. "Battle stations," Daniel commanded, his voice resolute. "We won't let them take her." The Celestial Vengeance prepared for the impending conflict. Daniel knew that the coming battle would test their strength and resolve, but he was determined to protect Tessa at all costs. Back in the infirmary, Tessa looked at Dr. Park with concern. "What's happening?" Dr. Park's expression was serious. "The Zyrithians are demanding your return. Captain Greaves is preparing to defend you." Tessa's heart swelled with a mix of fear and gratitude. She had never felt so valued and protected. "I have to help," she said, her resolve strengthening. Dr. Park placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "The best way you can help is by staying safe. Trust the captain." As the Celestial Vengeance braced for battle, Daniel's thoughts were with Tessa. He knew they were in for a fierce fight, but with the bond they had formed and the crew's unwavering loyalty, he felt ready to face whatever came their way. The Celestial Vengeance shuddered as the first volley of plasma bolts from the Zyrithian warship struck its shields. Alarms blared and lights flickered, casting an eerie red glow over the bridge. "Shields holding at 70%, Lieutenant Sarah Hodge reported, her hands flying over the controls. "But we can't take much more of this." "Return fire," Captain Daniel Greaves ordered, his voice steady despite the tension. "Target their weapon systems. We need to buy ourselves some time." The Celestial Vengeance's weapons blazed to life, sending a barrage of laser fire and missiles toward the enemy ship. The Zyrithian warship's shields flared as it absorbed the impact, but the counterattack was relentless. In the infirmary, Tessa could feel the vibrations of the battle through the floor. Her heart pounded with a mix of fear and determination. She looked at Dr. Emily Park, who was monitoring the situation with a worried expression. "I can't just sit here," Tessa said, her voice trembling. "I need to help." Dr. Park shook her head. "You're still recovering. It's too dangerous." Tessa took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "I have to do something. The serum, it's given me abilities. I can use them to help." Dr. Park hesitated, then nodded. "All right, but you need to be careful. Follow me." Dr. Park led Tessa to the ship's command center where Daniel was coordinating the defense. His eyes widened in surprise when he saw her, but he quickly masked his concern. "Tessa, what are you doing here?" Daniel asked, his tone a mix of worry and admiration. "I can help," Tessa said firmly. "The serum has given me heightened senses and reflexes. Let me use them to protect the ship." Daniel hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "All right, we can use all the help we can get." As the battle raged on, Tessa took her position at one of the tactical stations. Her enhanced abilities allowed her to react faster than any human, and she quickly proved to be an invaluable asset. "Captain, I've identified a weak point in their shields," Tessa reported, her fingers flying over the controls. "If we concentrate our fire there, we might be able to break through." Daniel's eyes lit up with hope. "Good work, Tessa. Lieutenant Hodge, focus all fire on that point." The Celestial Vengeance's weapons targeted the weak spot Tessa had identified, and after a few tense moments, the Zyrithian ship's shields began to falter. With their defenses weakened, The tide of the battle started to turn in favor of the humans. But the Zerithians were not ready to give up. The enemy ship launched a boarding party, and alarms blared as enemy soldiers breached the hull. "Security teams to Deck 4, Daniel commanded. "Repel the boarders." Tessa felt a surge of adrenaline. "I'm going with them." Daniel's heart clenched with fear for her, but he knew better than to argue. "Stay safe." Tessa joined the security team, her heightened senses guiding her through the chaos. The Zerithian soldiers were strong and ruthless, but Tessa's agility and reflexes gave her an edge. She fought alongside the crew, her movements a blur as she dodged attacks and struck back with precision. With her help, the boarders were gradually pushed back, and the ship's defenses began to stabilize. As the last of the Zerithian invaders were repelled, Tessa found herself face to face with their leader, a towering figure with cold, calculating eyes. "You cannot win!" the Zerithian leader hissed, raising a weapon. Tessa's enhanced reflexes kicked in, and she disarmed him with a swift, fluid motion. "We already have," she replied, her voice steady. Back on the bridge, Daniel received word that the boarding party had been defeated. Relief washed over him, but he knew the battle was not over yet. "Lieutenant Hodge, status report." "Their shields are down and their weapon systems are heavily damaged," Sarah replied. "We have the advantage." "Prepare to deliver the final blow," Daniel ordered, determination in his voice. As the Celestial Vengeance prepared for the final assault, Tessa returned to the bridge, her body bruised but her spirit unbroken. "We did it," she said, meeting Daniel's gaze. He nodded, pride swelling in his chest. "We did. Now let's finish this." The Celestial Vengeance launched a final concentrated attack on the Zerithian warship. With their shields down and systems failing, the enemy vessel was no match for the onslaught. The Zerithian ship erupted in a series of explosions, and the debris drifted away into the void. Cheers erupted on the bridge as the crew celebrated their hard-won victory. Daniel turned to Tessa, his heart filled with gratitude and admiration. "Thank you, Tessa. We couldn't have done this without you." Tessa smiled, her eyes shining with relief and joy. "We're a team. I couldn't have done it without all of you." As the Celestial Vengeance sailed away from the battlefield, Daniel and Tessa stood together on the observation deck, watching the stars. "We've faced incredible challenges, but we've come out stronger," Daniel said, his voice filled with hope. "Together we can face anything." Tessa nodded, feeling a deep sense of belonging and purpose. "And we will. Together." Their journey was far from over, but with their bond and the strength of their crew, Daniel and Tessa knew they were ready to face whatever came their way. The future was uncertain, but as long as they had each other, they were prepared to overcome any obstacle and protect the galaxy they called home. The aftermath of the battle left the Celestial Vengeance in dire need of repairs. The ship's engineers worked tirelessly to restore critical systems, while the crew tended to the wounded and assessed the damage. Captain Daniel Greaves stood on the bridge, coordinating the efforts. His mind was focused on the task at hand, but his thoughts frequently drifted to Tessa. Her bravery and determination had been instrumental in their victory, and he couldn't help but feel a growing admiration for her. Tessa, meanwhile, was in the infirmary, receiving treatment for the minor injuries she had sustained during the fight. Dr. Emily Park was checking her vitals, ensuring that the serum's effects were not causing any further complications. "You did incredibly well out there," Dr. Park said, smiling at Tessa. "How are you feeling?" Tessa nodded, her face reflecting a mixture of exhaustion and relief. "Better, thanks to you and the captain. I just want to make sure I can control these abilities." Dr. Park patted her shoulder. "We'll keep monitoring you, but I think you're handling it remarkably well. Just take it easy for a bit." As Tessa left the infirmary, she found Daniel waiting for her in the corridor. "Hey," he said softly. "How are you holding up?" Tessa managed a tired smile. "I'm okay. Just trying to process everything that happened." Daniel nodded, his eyes filled with concern. "I wanted to thank you again. You were incredible out there. I don't know what we would have done without you." Tessa blushed slightly, feeling a warm rush of emotions. "I'm just glad I could help. We're in this together, right?" "Absolutely," Daniel agreed, his voice firm. "We're a team." With the ship stabilized and the immediate danger past, the crew of the Celestial Vengeance gathered for a briefing on their next mission. The Xyrithian threat was still looming, and they needed to stay vigilant. Captain Daniel Greaves stood before his crew, his expression serious but hopeful. "We've faced incredible challenges and come out stronger. But our mission isn't over. We need to continue exploring, securing resources, and forging alliances. The Xyrithians won't stop, and neither will we." Lieutenant Sarah Hodge added, "Our scans have detected potential resources in the Navarra sector. It's uncharted territory, but it could be vital for our efforts." Daniel nodded. "Set a course for the Navarra sector. We'll proceed with caution and be ready for anything." As the Celestial Vengeance prepared to depart, Tessa approached Daniel. "I want to help with the exploration. My abilities might give us an edge in unfamiliar environments." Daniel looked at her, his eyes filled with trust and admiration. "I'd be honored to have you on the team." The ship jumped to hyperspace, the stars streaking past as they traveled to their new destination. The journey was long, but the crew remained focused and determined. Upon arriving in the Navarra sector, the sensors picked up strange energy readings emanating from a nearby planet. Daniel assembled an away team, including Tessa, Sarah, and Dr. Park, to investigate. The planet's surface was a lush green landscape, teeming with life. As they explored, Tessa's heightened senses picked up on subtle changes in the environment, guiding them to a hidden cavern. Inside the cavern, they discovered an ancient structure filled with advanced technology and strange symbols. Tessa examined the markings, her mind racing to decipher their meaning. "These symbols, they look similar to the ones we saw on the Xyrithian ship," Tessa said, her voice filled with curiosity. Dr. Park nodded. "It's possible this planet holds more advanced technology or information about the Xyrithians." Sarah scanned the surroundings, her device beeping softly. "I'm picking up a significant energy source deeper inside. We should proceed with caution." Daniel led the team further into the cavern, the air growing cooler and the walls covered in intricate carvings that glowed faintly. They entered a vast chamber where a large crystalline structure pulsed with energy. "This must be the source of the readings," Daniel said, approaching the structure. "It looks like some kind of power generator." Tessa reached out, her fingers brushing the smooth surface of the crystal. As she touched it, the structure responded, lighting up brighter and emitting a low hum. "It's reacting to you," Dr. Park observed. "Your enhanced abilities might be attuned to this technology." Suddenly, the ground shook, and the walls of the cavern trembled. Daniel turned to the team. "We need to figure out what this is and how to use it quickly. It might be our only chance against the Xyrithians." As Tessa concentrated, trying to communicate with the crystalline structure, an image formed in her mind. She saw a network of similar structures across the galaxy, each one a node in a vast energy grid designed to protect against powerful threats. "This isn't just a generator," Tessa said, her eyes widening. "It's part of a defense network. If we can activate it, we could use it to defend against the Xyrithians." Daniel's expression grew serious. "Then let's figure out how to activate it. Sarah, see if you can interface with the controls. Dr. Park, keep an eye on Tessa's condition." Sarah worked quickly, her fingers dancing over the control panel as she deciphered the alien technology. "I think I've got it. There's a sequence to activate the network, but it's complex. Tessa, I'll need your help." Tessa nodded, focusing her energy and senses on the crystalline structure. Together, she and Sarah began the activation sequence, their movements synchronized and precise. The chamber filled with light as the structure powered up, sending a wave of energy through the cavern. Outside, the landscape shimmered with an ethereal glow as the defense network came online. "We did it," Sarah said, her voice filled with awe. "The network is active." Daniel smiled, a sense of hope washing over him. "This is a game changer. We need to get back to the Celestial Vengeance and figure out how to use this to our advantage." As they made their way back to the ship, Tessa felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She had not only helped uncover a powerful new resource, but it also strengthened her bond with the crew. Back on the Celestial Vengeance, Daniel addressed the crew. "We've made a significant discovery today. With this defense network, we have a new weapon against the Xyrithians. Let's use it wisely and continue our mission to protect the galaxy." The crew cheered, their spirits lifted by the successful mission. Daniel and Tessa shared a look of mutual respect and determination. They knew that the journey ahead would be filled with challenges, but they were ready to face them together. As the Celestial Vengeance set course for their next destination, Tessa stood beside Daniel on the observation deck, gazing out at the stars. "We've come so far," she said softly, "and there's so much more to do." Daniel nodded, his eyes filled with resolve. "We'll face whatever comes our way, together." With their bond stronger than ever, Daniel and Tessa looked forward to the adventures and challenges that awaited them, ready to protect the galaxy and ensure a future of peace and unity. With the defense network activated, the Celestial Vengeance returned to the fleet's headquarters to share their findings. The discovery of the ancient network brought hope, but it also intensified the urgency of their mission. The Xyrithians would not sit idly by while the humans strengthened their defenses. Captain Daniel Greaves convened a strategy meeting with key leaders of the Allied forces. The holographic map displayed the network of crystalline structures spread across the galaxy. "We've activated one node of the defense network," Daniel began, "but we need to activate the others to ensure complete protection. Each node is located on a different planet, and the Xyrithians are likely aware of their significance now." Admiral Kira Mathis, a seasoned leader with a reputation for strategic brilliance, spoke up. "We'll need to move quickly and decisively. Our teams must be prepared for fierce resistance. The Xyrithians won't let us activate the network without a fight." Daniel nodded. "Agreed. We'll divide our forces into smaller teams, each responsible for activating a different node. Tessa, your abilities will be crucial in navigating the challenges we'll face." Tessa, standing beside Daniel, felt the weight of the responsibility. "I'm ready," she said, her voice steady. "We'll make sure the network is fully operational." As preparations began, the atmosphere aboard the Celestial Vengeance was a mix of determination and anticipation. The crew knew that the success of their mission could change the tide of the conflict, but the risks were immense. The Celestial Vengeance set a course for the next planet with a defense node, a desolate world named Corallus Prime. Intelligence indicated that the Xyrithians had already established a presence there, making it a high-risk operation. Daniel assembled a strike team that included Tessa, Lieutenant Sarah Hodge, and a group of elite soldiers. "Our objective is to infiltrate the Xyrithian base, reach the node, and activate it. We need to move quickly and quietly." As they approached Corallus Prime, the team donned their gear and prepared for the mission. The planet's surface was rugged and barren, with towering rock formations and deep canyons providing natural cover. The shuttle landed in a concealed location, and the team disembarked, moving swiftly through the rocky terrain. Tessa's enhanced senses guided them, allowing them to avoid Xyrithian patrols and navigate the treacherous landscape. "We're getting close," Tessa whispered, her eyes scanning the horizon. "The node should be just beyond this ridge." The team crept up the ridge, peering down at the Xyrithian base below. The node, a towering crystalline structure similar to the one they had activated before, was heavily guarded. Daniel assessed the situation. "We need a diversion. Sarah, take a small team and create a distraction. Tessa and I will move in to activate the node." Sarah nodded. "Understood, Captain." As Sarah and her team prepared the diversion, Tessa and Daniel waited for the right moment to strike. Explosions rocked the base as Sarah's team launched their attack, drawing the Xyrithian soldiers away from the node. "Now," Daniel urged, and he and Tessa sprinted toward the crystalline structure. They reached the base of the node, and Tessa quickly began the activation sequence. The ground shook as the node powered up, its energy pulsating with a brilliant light. "Almost there," Tessa muttered, her fingers flying over the controls. Suddenly, a squad of Xyrithian soldiers appeared, weapons raised. Daniel stepped in front of Tessa, his blaster at the ready. "Keep working, I'll hold them off." The Xyrithians opened fire, and Daniel returned shots with precision, taking down several attackers, but more kept coming, and the situation grew increasingly dire. "We need to hurry," Daniel shouted, his voice strained with effort. Tessa completed the activation sequence just as the Xyrithians closed in. The node emitted a powerful energy wave, knocking the soldiers off their feet and disabling their weapons. "It's done," Tessa yelled, grabbing Daniel's arm. "Let's get out of here." They made a hasty retreat, rejoining Sarah and the rest of the team. With the node activated, the Xyrithian base was thrown into disarray, and the team used the chaos to their advantage, making their way back to the shuttle. As they lifted off, Tessa looked out the window at the glowing node. "That's 2 down," she said, her voice filled with determination. "How many more to go?" Daniel smiled, proud of their success. We'll keep going until they're all activated. One step at a time, we'll ensure the safety of the galaxy. The team returned to the Celestial Vengeance, their spirits high despite the challenges ahead. The activation of the second node was a significant victory, but they knew the road ahead would be fraught with danger. As they set course for the next planet, Daniel and Tessa stood together on the observation deck, gazing out at the stars. "We've made great progress," Daniel said, his voice filled with hope. "But we can't let our guard down. The Xyrithians will be more determined than ever to stop us." Tessa nodded, her resolve unwavering. "We'll be ready. Together, we'll see this through to the end." With their bond stronger than ever, Daniel and Tessa faced the future with determination and courage. The mission to activate the defense network continued, and they knew that as long as they stood together, they could overcome any obstacle and protect the galaxy from the rising threat. With 2 nodes of the defense network activated, the Celestial Vengeance headed towards the 3rd planet on their list, Eloria. Unlike the previous worlds, Eloria was covered in dense jungles and ancient ruins, making it a challenging environment to navigate. Captain Daniel Greaves briefed the team before their descent. Eloria's terrain will be difficult, and the node is believed to be hidden within an ancient temple. We have no intel on Xyrithian presence, so stay alert. The shuttle descended through the thick canopy, landing in a small clearing. The air was humid, and the sounds of alien wildlife echoed around them. Daniel, Tessa, Lieutenant Sarah Hodge, and a group of soldiers set out towards the temple. Tessa led the way, her heightened senses guiding them through the dense foliage. "The temple should be just ahead," she said, pointing to a faint outline in the distance. As they approached the temple, they found it partially covered in vines and moss. Ancient carvings adorned the stone walls, depicting scenes of long-forgotten civilizations. "This place is incredible," Sarah murmured, her eyes scanning the intricate designs. "We should be careful. There might be traps." They entered the temple cautiously, moving through dark corridors lit only by the beams of their flashlights. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decay. Tessa's senses tingled, alerting her to subtle changes in the environment. "There's something here," she whispered. "Be ready." As they ventured deeper, they came across a large chamber with a pedestal in the center. The node, a smaller crystalline structure, sat atop the pedestal, pulsing faintly. "We found it," Daniel said, relief evident in his voice. "Tessa, can you activate it?" Tessa approached the node, examining the controls. "I think so, but it looks like there's a security mechanism. I'll need to disable it first." While Tessa worked on the node, the team kept watch, scanning the shadows for any signs of danger. Suddenly, the walls shook, and hidden doors opened, revealing Xyrithian soldiers armed and ready. "Ambush!" Sarah shouted, raising her weapon. Daniel and the team engaged the Xyrithians, the chamber erupting into chaos. Blaster fire lit up the room as both sides fought fiercely. Tessa concentrated on disabling the security mechanism, her fingers flying over the controls. "Just a little longer," she called out, her voice strained with effort. The battle raged on around Tessa as she continued to work on the node. The Xyrithian soldiers pressed their attack, determined to stop the humans from activating the network. Daniel took cover behind a pillar, firing at the advancing enemies. "We need to hold them off until Tessa finishes." Sarah and the soldiers formed a defensive perimeter, their blasters blazing as they repelled the Xyrithian assault. The air was filled with the sounds of gunfire and shouts, the tension palpable. Tessa finally disabled the security mechanism and began the activation sequence. The node's glow intensified, casting an eerie light over the chamber. "I've got it!" Tessa yelled, her voice cutting through the chaos. Just as the node powered up, a loud rumble echoed through the temple. The ground shook violently, and cracks appeared in the walls and ceiling. "It's a trap!" Daniel shouted. "We need to get out of here, now!" The team retreated towards the entrance, fighting off the remaining Xyrithian soldiers as the temple began to collapse. Dust and debris filled the air, making it difficult to see. Tessa stumbled, her balance thrown off by the shaking ground. Daniel grabbed her arm, pulling her to her feet. "Come on, we're almost there." They burst out of the temple just as the structure gave way, collapsing into a heap of rubble. The team regrouped in the clearing, breathing heavily and covered in dust. "Is everyone all right?" Daniel asked, scanning the group. "We're good," Sarah replied, checking on the soldiers. "But that was too close." Tessa looked back at the ruined temple, the glow of the activated node still visible beneath the debris. We did it. The node is active. Daniel nodded, a mix of relief and exhaustion on his face. We did, but we need to be more careful. The Zerithians are getting desperate. They'll stop at nothing to prevent us from completing the network. As the team returned to the Celestial Vengeance, they knew the mission was becoming increasingly dangerous. The Zerithians were more determined than ever, and each step forward was met with greater resistance. Back on the ship, Daniel addressed the crew. We've activated another node, but the Zerithians are stepping up their efforts to stop us. We need to stay vigilant and prepared for anything. Our mission is critical and we can't afford to fail. The crew responded with resolute determination, their spirits unbroken despite the challenges they faced. As the Celestial Vengeance set course for the next planet, Daniel and Tessa stood together on the observation deck, gazing out at the stars. We're making progress, Tessa said, her voice filled with determination. But it's only going to get harder from here. Daniel nodded, his eyes reflecting the same resolve. We'll face whatever comes our way, together. With their bond stronger than ever, Daniel and Tessa prepared for the next phase of their mission, ready to overcome any obstacle and protect the galaxy from the Zerithian threat. With the latest node activated, the Celestial Vengeance set its course for the fourth planet, Talara IV, a world shrouded in perpetual storms and treacherous terrain. The team knew this would be their most challenging mission yet. Captain Daniel Greaves gathered his team for a briefing. Talara IV is notorious for its harsh weather and dangerous wildlife. The node is located in a deep canyon, making it difficult to reach. We must be prepared for anything. Lieutenant Sarah Hodge pointed to the holographic map. We'll need specialized equipment to navigate the storms and the rocky terrain. Our best approach is to land near the canyon and proceed on foot. Tessa, her determination unwavering, stepped forward. I'm ready. My senses will help us navigate the canyon and avoid any traps. Daniel nodded. Let's move out. As the shuttle descended through the turbulent atmosphere of Talara IV, the team braced themselves for a rough landing. The shuttle rocked violently, buffeted by strong winds and lightning strikes. They touched down near the canyon's edge, and the team disembarked, donning their protective gear. The descent into the canyon was treacherous. The steep walls and loose rocks made every step a challenge. Tessa led the way, her enhanced senses alert to any potential dangers. We need to keep moving, Daniel urged, glancing at the darkening sky. The storms are getting worse. They pressed on, navigating the narrow ledges and deep crevices. As they neared the bottom of the canyon, Tessa stopped suddenly, her eyes narrowing. There's something ahead, she whispered. I can sense it. The team moved cautiously, their weapons at the ready. As they rounded a bend, they found a hidden Zerithian outpost, heavily fortified and guarded. Daniel's heart sank. This is going to be tough. We need a plan. The team took cover behind a rock formation, observing the Zerithian outpost. The node was visible inside a reinforced structure, heavily guarded by elite soldiers. Sarah examined the outpost through her binoculars. We'll need to create a diversion to draw the guards away from the node. Tessa, can you disable their communications? Tessa nodded. I'll need to get closer, but I can do it. Daniel outlined the plan. Sarah and I will create a distraction. Tessa, once their communications are down, you and the rest of the team will move in to activate the node. As Sarah and Daniel prepared their distraction, Tessa slipped through the shadows, her senses guiding her past the guards. She reached the outpost's communication hub and quickly began to disable the systems. Alarms blared as Sarah and Daniel launched their attack, drawing the guards away from the node. The Zerithians responded with overwhelming force, but the diversion was working. Tessa, now! Daniel shouted through the comms. Tessa completed her task, silencing the alarms and plunging the outpost into chaos. She and the rest of the team moved swiftly towards the node, taking advantage of the confusion. The battle intensified as they reached the node. Tessa began the activation sequence while the team held off the remaining guards. Blaster fire echoed through the canyon, and the ground trembled with the force of the explosions. Hurry, Tessa! Sarah called out, firing at the approaching Zerithians. I'm almost there, Tessa replied, her hands moving quickly over the controls. Just as the Zerithian reinforcements arrived, the node activated, sending a powerful energy pulse through the canyon. The remaining guards were knocked off their feet, and the outpost's defenses were disabled. We did it! Tessa yelled. a mix of relief and triumph in her voice. The team regrouped, making their way back up the canyon. The storms intensified, making their ascent even more perilous. They reached the top, battered and exhausted, but victorious. Back on the Celestial Vengeance, the crew celebrated their hard-won success. Daniel addressed them, his voice filled with pride. "We've activated another node, but the Xyrithians won't stop. We need to stay vigilant and ready for anything." Tessa stood beside Daniel, her resolve stronger than ever. "We're making progress, but the hardest part is still ahead. We can't let our guard down." Daniel nodded, his eyes filled with determination. "We'll face whatever comes our way, together." With their bond unbreakable and their mission clear, Daniel and Tessa prepared for the final phase of their journey. The galaxy's fate rested on their shoulders, and they were ready to see it through to the end. The Celestial Vengeance set its course for the next planet, the crew united in their resolve to protect the galaxy and defeat the Xyrithian threat once and for all. With 4 nodes activated, the Celestial Vengeance set its course for the final planet, Veridon Prime. This planet was known for its hostile environment and rumored to be the site of the Xyrithian stronghold. The team knew that this mission would be the most dangerous yet. Captain Daniel Greaves gathered his team for one final briefing. "Veridon Prime is heavily fortified. This is the heart of the Xyrithian defenses. We need to be prepared for anything. Our objective is to reach and activate the final node. Failure is not an option." Lieutenant Sarah Hodge added, "We've received intelligence that the Xyrithian leader, Commander Ral, is personally overseeing the defenses. We need to be cautious and strategic in our approach." Tessa, her resolve unwavering, stood beside Daniel. "We've come this far. We can't back down now. I'll do whatever it takes to ensure we succeed." The shuttle descended through the turbulent atmosphere of Veridon Prime, landing in a concealed location near the Xyrithian stronghold. The team disembarked, their hearts pounding with anticipation and determination. The landscape was a barren wasteland with jagged rocks and toxic fumes making it difficult to navigate. As they approached the stronghold, they could see the final node glowing faintly in the distance, surrounded by a massive Xyrithian army. Daniel turned to his team. "We'll split into 2 groups. Sarah, you'll lead the first group and create a diversion. Tessa and I will infiltrate the stronghold and activate the node." Sarah nodded. "Understood, Captain. We'll give you as much time as we can." As Sarah's group launched their attack, drawing the Xyrithian forces away from the stronghold, Daniel and Tessa slipped through the chaos, using the distraction to their advantage. They moved swiftly, their senses heightened and their movements precise. Inside the stronghold, they encountered fierce resistance. Xyrithian soldiers fought with relentless ferocity, determined to protect their leader and prevent the activation of the final node. "We need to keep moving," Daniel urged, his voice filled with urgency. "The node is just ahead." Tessa's heightened senses guided them through the labyrinthine corridors, avoiding traps and ambushes. They reached the central chamber, where the final node stood, pulsating with energy. As Tessa began the activation sequence, the doors to the chamber burst open, and Commander Ral stormed in, flanked by his elite guards. His eyes burned with rage and determination. "You've come far, but this is where it ends," Ral snarled, raising his weapon. Daniel stepped forward, his blaster aimed at Ral. "We won't let you stop us. The galaxy will be free from your tyranny." A fierce battle ensued. Daniel and Tessa fought side by side, their movements synchronized and their resolve unshakable. Tessa continued to work on the node, her fingers flying over the controls as Daniel engaged Ral and his guards. The chamber shook with the force of the battle, and the air was filled with the sounds of blaster fire and clashing metal. Despite the overwhelming odds, Daniel and Tessa pressed on, their determination driving them forward. Just as Ral lunged at Daniel with a powerful strike, Tessa completed the activation sequence. The node lit up, sending a blinding pulse of energy through the chamber. Ral staggered, his strength waning as the node's energy disrupted his forces. "This isn't over," he hissed, retreating with his remaining guards. Daniel and Tessa stood before the activated node, their hearts pounding with relief and triumph. "We did it," Daniel said, his voice filled with awe. "The network is complete." Tessa smiled, tears of joy streaming down her face. "We've won. The galaxy is safe." As the Xyrithian stronghold began to collapse, Daniel and Tessa made their way back to the surface, rejoining Sarah and the rest of the team. The sky above them cleared, and the once hostile environment seemed to soften, reflecting the hope of a new beginning. Back on the Celestial Vengeance, the crew celebrated their hard-won victory. Daniel addressed them, his voice filled with pride and gratitude. "We've faced incredible challenges and made great sacrifices, but we've emerged victorious. The galaxy is free from the Xyrithian threat thanks to all of you." The crew cheered, their spirits lifted by the successful completion of their mission. Tessa stood beside Daniel, her heart full of joy and a sense of accomplishment. "We've done it," she said softly, looking up at Daniel. "We've changed the future." Daniel nodded, his eyes filled with admiration and love. "We have, and we'll continue to protect this galaxy, no matter what comes our way." As the Celestial Vengeance set course for home, Daniel and Tessa stood together on the observation deck, gazing out at the stars. Their bond, forged through countless trials and triumphs, had become unbreakable. "We've come so far," Tessa said, her voice filled with wonder. "And there's so much more to do." Daniel smiled, his heart filled with hope. "Together we can face anything." With their mission complete and the galaxy safe, Daniel and Tessa looked forward to the future, ready to explore new horizons and protect the peace they had fought so hard to achieve. The journey had been long and arduous, but their love and determination had seen them through, proving that together they were unstoppable.